The security guard's hand slammed against Dr. Isaiah Cross's chest at 3:07 a.m. "Sir, visitors aren't allowed in the ER at night." Isaiah looked down at the badge clipped to his scrubs. Chief of Cardiovascular Surgery, Memorial Hospital. The guard never even glanced at it. What happened in the next 8 hours would expose 15 years of systematic racism in healthcare and transform an entire institution. The confrontation. Have you ever been so underestimated that people couldn't see your credentials literally hanging around your neck? So Dr. Isaiah Cross had just finished an emergency coronary bypass surgery that saved a teenager's life. His surgical scrubs were still speckled with microscopic blood spray. His hands smelled of surgical soap. His stethoscope hung around his neck like it had for 22 years. But Security Officer Michael Thompson saw none of that. "I need to check on my patient," Isaiah said calmly, gesturing toward the ER entrance. His voice carried the practiced steadiness of someone who'd delivered bad news to families, who'd held beating hearts in his hands, who'd made life-or-death decisions in split seconds. "Your patient?" Thompson's laugh was sharp. "Buddy, I don't know what you're trying to pull, but doctors don't show up at 3 a.m. in street clothes." Isaiah glanced down at his surgical scrubs. The same dark blue scrubs every surgeon at Memorial Hospital wore. The same scrubs he'd been wearing for the past 14 hours. "These are surgical scrubs," Isaiah replied. "I've been in OR 7 since 1 p.m. yesterday. Check the surgery log if you need verification." But what Isaiah didn't know was that Thompson's assumptions were about to trigger a chain of events that would expose something much darker than one guard's bias. Thompson stepped closer, his hand moving to his radio. "Sir, I'm going to need you to step back from the entrance. If you don't comply, I'll have to call backup." A nurse pushing a patient in a wheelchair paused to watch. 2 EMTs arriving with an ambulance slowed their approach. In the ER waiting room, families looked up from their magazines and phones. Isaiah remained perfectly still, his hands at his sides, his breathing controlled, his eyes forward. This wasn't the first time. It wouldn't be the last. "Officer Thompson," Isaiah said, reading the name tag. "I'm asking you to check my hospital ID. It's clipped to my scrubs, right here." He pointed to the badge hanging from his chest pocket. Thompson glanced at it for less than a second. "These can be faked. We've had issues with people impersonating staff to steal medications. Then call the administrative office. They can verify my credentials in 30 seconds. Administrative office is closed until 8 a.m. Thompson's tone suggested the conversation was over. "You can come back during visiting hours or make an appointment through proper channels." The nurse with the wheelchair approached. "Michael, what's going on?" "This gentleman is trying to gain unauthorized access to the ER." The nurse, her name tag read Sarah Martinez, RN, looked at Isaiah's scrubs, his stethoscope, his hospital ID. Something flickered in her expression. Uncertainty. Recognition. But she didn't speak up. What Sarah saw in that moment would haunt her for months. But right now, she made the choice that dozens of hospital staff had made before her. "If he doesn't have proper authorization, we should follow protocol," Sarah said quietly, avoiding Isaiah's eyes. Isaiah checked his watch. 3:14 a.m. In his pocket, his phone buzzed. A text from Dr. Patricia Chen, Chief of Emergency Medicine. "Where are you? Patient in bed 7, needs cardiac consult ASAP." He typed back. "Detained at ER entrance by security, unable to verify credentials." Patricia's response was immediate. "What? I'll be right there." "Officer Thompson," Isaiah tried once more. "Dr. Chen is coming down. She can verify my identity. I don't care if the president is coming down. You're not entering this facility without proper authorization." The ER's automatic doors slid open. Dr. Patricia Chen emerged, her white coat billowing behind her like a cape. She was 5'2", Asian American, and absolutely fearless after 25 years in emergency medicine. "Michael, what the hell is going on?" Patricia's voice could cut through a code blue's chaos. "Why is Dr. Cross standing outside my ER?" Thompson straightened. "Dr. Chen, this individual was attempting to gain unauthorized access. This individual is Dr. Isaiah Cross." one of the most respected cardiovascular surgeons in the country. He's also my colleague and friend. And right now, I have a patient coding who needs his expertise immediately. But even Dr. Chen's intervention wouldn't be enough to reveal the depth of systematic bias that Isaiah was about to expose. Thompson's face flushed. Ma'am, I didn't know. He didn't properly identify himself. I was following security protocols. He's wearing surgical scrubs with a hospital ID badge. What more identification do you need? The ID could be fake. We've had incidents. Have you ever stopped Dr. Morrison like this? Patricia stepped closer. Or Dr. Sullivan? Or Dr. Phillips? The question hung in the air. All three doctors were white men who regularly entered the hospital at odd hours, wearing similar scrubs. Thompson stammered. I don't recall. Of course you don't recall. Because you've never stopped them. Not once. Not ever. Isaiah placed a hand on Patricia's shoulder. Patricia, the patient needs you. I'll sort this out. You shouldn't have to sort this out. I know what this is. Isaiah's voice was quiet but firm. Go. I'll be there in a few minutes. Patricia glared at Thompson one more time before disappearing back into the ER. Isaiah stood in the cool night air, surrounded by witnesses who'd watched the entire exchange. The nurse, Sarah, had wheeled her patient inside. The EMTs had delivered their ambulance patient. But people in the waiting room were still watching, some recording on their phones. Thompson shifted uncomfortably. Dr. Cross, I apologize for the confusion. You can go in now. The confusion? Isaiah repeated. Is that what we're calling this? I was just doing my job, sir. No, Officer Thompson. You were making assumptions. There's a difference. Isaiah walked toward the ER entrance. Thompson stepped aside, his face a mixture of embarrassment and defensiveness. As Isaiah entered the hospital, he made a decision that would change everything. But first, he had a life to save. The pattern reveals itself. Inside the ER, organized chaos reigned. Monitors beeped. Staff rushed between curtain bays. Somewhere, a child was crying. Isaiah found Patricia in bed 7, performing chest compressions on a 67-year-old man in full cardiac arrest. Talk to me, Isaiah said, snapping on gloves. Patricia barely glanced up. Myocardial infarction. 67-year-old male. Third shock. Didn't convert. He needs emergency cath lab. The cardiology is backed up for 2 hours. Isaiah studied the monitor. Ventricular fibrillation. The heart's electrical system completely disorganized. Without intervention, the patient would die in minutes. Get me a crash cart and prep for emergency pericardiocentesis, Isaiah ordered. If we can't shock him out of VFib, we go straight to mechanical intervention. For the next 40 minutes, Isaiah did what he'd done thousands of times before. He fought death and won. The patient stabilized. The heart rhythm normalized. The family in the waiting room would get good news instead of devastating news. Beautiful work, Patricia said, as they stripped off their gloves. You just saved that man's life. We saved his life, Isaiah corrected. Patricia gestured toward a small office off the main ER floor. We need to talk about what happened outside. Inside the cramped office, surrounded by patient charts and coffee cups, Patricia pulled up something on her computer. Isaiah, how many times has this happened to you here? At Memorial? Twice in 3 months. But I've been stopped at hospitals across the country. It's nothing new. It should never happen once. You're one of the most accomplished surgeons in this hospital. What Patricia was about to show him would reveal something that Isaiah had suspected but never proven. She turned the computer screen toward him. I started documenting incidents after the last time security stopped you. Do you know Dr. James Morrison? White male, general surgery. We've worked together on a few cases. He enters the hospital at odd hours, at least twice a week. Wears his gym clothes. No ID visible. I asked security if they'd ever stopped him. Patricia paused. Not once in 5 years. She clicked to another file. Dr. Sullivan, white male, cardiology. Shows up in jeans and a t-shirt for emergency consults. Never stopped. Dr. Phillips, white male, neurology. Arrives in full cycling gear, helmet, clipless shoes, the works. Never questioned. The pattern was undeniable. Now look at this, Patricia continued. Dr. Angela Martinez, Latina, pediatric surgery. Stopped and questioned 4 times in 2 years. Dr. Jamal Washington, black male, orthopedics. Stopped 6 times. Dr. Keisha Johnson, black female, internal medicine. Stopped 7 times in 18 months. Isaiah stared at the data. Numbers didn't lie. I've been compiling this for 3 months, Patricia said. Security stops non-white physicians at a rate 340% higher than white physicians. When they do stop white doctors, it's usually for actual security concerns. Expired badges, unknown visitors with them, things like that. But with doctors of color, it's just assumptions.
Have you reported this?
To whom? Human resources. They'll bury it in bureaucracy and promise diversity training that changes nothing. Hospital administration? They'll worry about liability and bad press, not actual change. Isaiah was quiet for a long moment, thinking. What Isaiah didn't know was that his new position would give him exactly the power he needed to change everything. His phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Dr. Cross, this is Helen Morrison, hospital board chair. Can you meet me in the executive conference room at 8 a.m.? Important announcement. Isaiah showed Patricia the message. The board chair personally texting you at 4 a.m.? Patricia's eyes widened. Isaiah, what's going on? I was going to tell you this week. They offered me a position. I accepted yesterday. What kind of position? Chief of medicine. Patricia's jaw dropped. You're going to run this entire hospital? The board voted unanimously. I start officially on Monday, but they wanted to make the announcement today, during the morning staff meeting. For the first time since the security incident, Patricia smiled. Oh, Michael Thompson has no idea what's about to happen. Neither does the rest of the hospital. The revelation? At 8 a.m., the executive conference room on Memorial Hospital's 7th floor, filled with department heads, senior administrators, and board members. Leather chairs surrounded a mahogany table that could seat 20. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the city. Isaiah sat quietly in a chair against the wall, still in his surgical scrubs from the night before. Several administrators glanced at him, curiously, clearly wondering why a surgeon was attending an executive meeting. Helen Morrison, the hospital board chair, called the meeting to order. She was 68, white, and had served on the board for 23 years. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for coming on short notice. We have an important announcement that will shape the future of Memorial Hospital. In 60 seconds, the entire power structure of the hospital was about to shift. After a comprehensive national search, the board of directors has unanimously selected our new chief of medicine. This individual brings exceptional clinical expertise, administrative experience, and a vision for transforming our institution into a model of medical excellence and equity. Some administrators nodded approvingly. A few checked their phones. The hospital's current interim chief of medicine, Dr. Robert Davidson, sat forward in his chair, expecting his name to be called. Please join me in welcoming Memorial Hospital's new chief of medicine, Dr. Isaiah Cross. The room fell silent. Every head turned toward Isaiah as he stood and walked to the front of the conference room. Dr. Davidson's face went through several emotions in rapid succession: confusion, disbelief, and finally, poorly concealed anger. Dr. Cross, Helen said warmly. Would you like to say a few words? Isaiah stood before the group. Administrators who'd never questioned security stopping him. Department heads who'd witnessed bias without speaking up. Executives who'd maintained a culture where assumptions about black physicians were tolerated. Thank you, Helen. I'm honored by the board's confidence and excited about the opportunity to serve Memorial Hospital in this capacity. He paused, making eye contact with individuals around the room. I come to this position with 22 years of clinical experience, including service at Johns Hopkins, Mayo Clinic, and Cleveland Clinic. I've published 47 peer-reviewed papers on cardiovascular outcomes. I've trained 23 cardiothoracic fellows who now practice around the world. And last night, I saved a patient's life in our ER after being detained by security who assumed I didn't belong here. The room's energy shifted dramatically. Some administrators sat up straighter. Others looked uncomfortable. Dr. Davidson stared at his notes. That incident wasn't unique. It was systemic. And over the next 6 months, we're going to address every systematic bias that prevents this hospital from achieving true excellence. Helen Morrison nodded approvingly. She'd been briefed on the security incident that morning. My first initiative as chief of medicine will be the implementation of the CROSS protocol, a comprehensive framework for identifying and eliminating bias in healthcare delivery. But what Isaiah revealed next would expose years of buried complaints and documented discrimination. Isaiah opened his laptop and projected data onto the conference room screen. In the past 3 years, Memorial Hospital has had 47 documented incidents of security stopping physicians of color without cause. 31 involved Black physicians. 12 involved Latino physicians. 4 involved Asian physicians. 0 involved white male physicians under similar circumstances. The statistics hung in the air like an indictment. Furthermore, patient satisfaction surveys show that Black patients rate their care experience 23% lower than white patients. Latino patients 19% lower. When we drill into the comments, the pattern is clear. Perceived dismissiveness from staff, longer wait times, assumptions about insurance coverage, and ability to pay. Dr. Davidson finally spoke. Dr. Cross, with respect, these statistics could reflect many factors. We can't simply attribute everything to bias. You're right, Dr. Davidson. We can't attribute everything to bias, but we can attribute a significant portion to it. When the pattern is this consistent, and when we have documentation to support it. Isaiah clicked to the next slide. A recording interface appeared. This is from our incident reporting system. Most staff don't know these reports are searchable by pattern. I've spent the past 3 months analyzing them. He played an audio clip, a nurse's voice. Dr. Martinez, the Latina pediatric surgeon, was questioned extensively by security again. His chimed this month. Meanwhile, Dr. Phillips walked in wearing cycling gear, and nobody said a word. Another clip. A different nurse. Patient in 4B asked if we had any American doctors instead of Dr. Washington. Charge nurse told the patient that all our physicians meet the same standards, but the patient insisted. Dr. Washington handled it professionally, but you could see it hurt him. One more. A medical assistant. Security stopped Dr. Johnson at the staff entrance. Again, she had her ID displayed. She was in scrubs. They still asked her to prove she worked here. She's been on staff for 6 years. The conference room was completely silent. These aren't isolated incidents, Isaiah said. They're patterns. And patterns indicate systems. Systems can be changed. Helen Morrison stood. Dr. Cross, you have the full support of this board to implement whatever changes are necessary. What do you need? 3 things. First, mandatory bias recognition training for all staff. Not the generic videos everyone sleeps through, but intensive, scenario-based training with real accountability. Second, a real-time incident reporting app where staff and patients can document bias immediately, with direct escalation to my office. Third, quarterly diversity metrics reported to the board with specific goals and consequences. Consider it done, Helen said. What else? Isaiah pulled up one final slide. A photograph of Security Officer Michael Thompson. And I need a meeting with Mr. Thompson at 9 a.m. in my new office. At 8:57 a.m., Michael Thompson sat in the waiting area outside what had been the chief of medicine's office. His uniform was crisp. His hands were shaking slightly. The office door opened. Dr. Isaiah Cross, now officially chief of medicine, gestured for him to enter. Mr. Thompson, thank you for coming. Sir, I want to apologize again for last night. Isaiah held up a hand. Before we discuss last night, I want to show you something. He turned his computer screen toward Thompson. Security footage played from multiple dates over the past 2 years. Dr. Morrison, white male, entering at 2 a.m. in sweatpants and a hoodie. No ID visible. Security waves him through. Dr. Martinez, Latina female, entering at 11 p.m. in scrubs with ID displayed. Security stops her. questions her, makes her call her department head for verification. Dr. Sullivan, white male, entering at midnight in business casual. No visible ID. Security opens the door for him. Dr. Washington, black male, entering in full surgical scrubs with ID and stethoscope. Security stops him, asks where he's going, requests additional identification. Thompson watched the footage, his face growing paler with each clip. Do you see the pattern, Mr. Thompson? Sir, I never realized. That's the insidious nature of implicit bias. We don't realize we're doing it. We tell ourselves we're just following protocol, being thorough, ensuring safety. But somehow that thoroughness only applies to certain people. Thompson's voice cracked. I've been in security for 15 years. I thought I treated everyone the same. Isaiah pulled up a different file. According to hospital records, you've worked here for 15 years. In that time, you've stopped or questioned 67 physicians at entrance points. 61 were physicians of color. 6 were white physicians, and all 6 had expired badges or were with unidentified visitors. Legitimate security concerns. The mathematics of discrimination were undeniable. Mr. Thompson, I'm not going to fire you. Thompson looked up, shocked. You're not? No, because firing you would be easy. It would make me feel better. It would send a message, but it wouldn't change anything. Tomorrow, another security officer would make the same assumptions. The system would continue. Isaiah stood and walked to the window. Instead, I'm giving you a choice. You can resign, take your pension, and leave quietly. Or you can help me fix this. Fix it how, sir? You're going to lead the development of our new security bias training program. You're going to share your story, honestly, vulnerably, about how you made assumptions without realizing it. You're going to help create a system where no physician, regardless of race, is ever stopped without legitimate cause. Thompson was quiet for a long moment. Why would you trust me to do that? Because you have 15 years of experience. You know every protocol, every procedure, every policy, and now you understand how those policies can be applied inequitably. That makes you uniquely qualified to help redesign them. What if I fail? Then you fail, and we try something else. But Mr. Thompson, doing nothing isn't an option anymore. Thompson stood, his posture straightening. Sir, I accept, and I promise you, I'll do everything I can to make this right. Good. Report to HR at 1 p.m. They'll outline your new responsibilities. After Thompson left, Dr. Patricia Chen entered the office.
You didn't fire him.
She observed. Firing him would have been revenge. I'm interested in transformation. Patricia smiled. Dr. Morrison and Dr. Davidson are requesting meetings with you. They seem concerned about your priorities. Let them be concerned. Change is uncomfortable, but it's necessary. 6 months later, the transformation was measurable and profound. Memorial Hospital's discrimination complaint rate dropped 73% in 6 months. The cross-protocol bias training, real-time reporting, and executive accountability had been adopted by 27 hospitals across the state. Michael Thompson led 89 security training sessions, sharing his story with brutal honesty. I thought I was just doing my job, he told new security officers. I didn't realize my job was infected with bias. Don't make my mistake. Dr. Martinez, Dr. Washington, and Dr. Johnson hadn't been stopped by security once in 6 months. Patient satisfaction scores showed dramatic improvement, with Black and Latino patients now rating their care within 3% of white patients, the smallest gap in the hospital's history. The New England Journal of Medicine published a case study, The Cross Protocol, Evidence-Based Approaches to Reducing Healthcare Bias. The article documented Memorial Hospital's transformation and provided a roadmap for other institutions. Isaiah sat in his office reviewing quarterly metrics when his phone buzzed. A text from Helen Morrison. Isaiah, Johns Hopkins, is requesting a presentation on the cross protocol. They want to implement it system-wide. This is becoming national. He smiled and typed back. Schedule it. Bias doesn't stop at state lines, neither should accountability. Below his message, a news alert appeared. Memorial Hospital named one of nation's top 10 for healthcare equity and excellence. The revolution was being documented, measured, and replicated. 6 months ago, I was stopped from entering my own ER. Today, I'm running the hospital. But this story isn't about me. It's about every healthcare worker of color who's been questioned, doubted, or dismissed. It's about every patient who's received substandard care because of their skin color. This is about how preparation meets opportunity, how quiet dignity outlasts loud bias, and how systematic change trumps individual revenge. The CROSS protocol is now being implemented in 27 hospitals. That's 27 places where doctors won't be stopped for looking different, where patients won't be dismissed for sounding different, where bias is being replaced with accountability. Your turn. Have you experienced or witnessed bias in healthcare, in your workplace, in your daily life? Share your story in the comments. Tag someone who needs to hear this. Subscribe to our channel for more untold stories of quiet power and dignified transformation. Because change doesn't happen in boardrooms alone. It happens when you decide that enough is enough. What will you document today? What bias will you challenge? What system will you transform? The next Dr. Isaiah Cross might be you.